let's take a look at the portfolio of possibly the greatest investor of all time in Warren Buffett. Well, more specifically, the holdings inside Berkshire Hathaway. But yeah, let's jump right into it. So here we can see the current holdings and allocations for Berkshire's portfolio, and the majority of the portfolio is in tech and financials, with Apple and Bank of America leading the pack as the top two holdings. Both combined make up almost 60% of the entire portfolio. Now, as far as transactions done in Q3, we'll start off with the sells. Berkshire sold off a pretty big portion of their bank stocks. The sell included M&T Bank, Wells Fargo, PNC Financial, and one of my holdings, JP Morgan Chase. Now, this is actually the second straight quarter where Buffett sells off a good chunk of his bank shares. Last quarter, these same names were also sold as well. It seems like Buffett is reducing Berkshire's exposure to financials and placing pretty much one big bet on Bank of America. Now, staying on the topic of selling, Barrick Gold was also sold off during the third quarter, with 43% of the shares being sold. Now, this one was kind of a surprise since Barrick was recently added to the portfolio just last quarter. In Q2 of 2020, Berkshire Hathaway purchased 21 million shares of Barrick Gold just to sell 9 million shares the very next quarter. Now, they still have a pretty good position of 12 million shares left on the portfolio, but as far as this trade, I feel like Buffett made a pretty good profit on this trade. Okay, so during the second quarter, if we take the average daily price using the average of the highs and lows, we can estimate that Buffett probably purchased Barrick Gold at around $24–25 during the second quarter. And if we do the same thing for Q3, we can estimate that he sold at about $28–29. And if you do the math, that's a pretty good return of 14% for the Buffett Meister. But actually, this is a good example of why you should not buy a stock just because somebody else is buying that stock. No one knew Buffett was going to hold Barrick Gold for just one quarter before selling almost half of his stake the very next quarter. And if you purchased after the second quarter, right, after Berkshire's filing, you would have probably bought at a higher price. And now, after the announcement, Barrick Gold has basically traded down. They've been trading down ever since November 5th, and this can put you in a tough position as a shareholder because now you're most likely down on a stock that you probably have little to no conviction on, and now you have news that Buffett just sold off half of his position. So yeah, don't just buy stocks because somebody else is buying, yes, even if that somebody else is Warren Buffett. Now, the last notable sell of Buffett was the complete sell-off of Costco, which I have a feeling Costco was sold because it's literally trading like a tech stock with a forward PE of 38, but I don't know, maybe Costco is a tech stock. Who knows, really? Moving on to the buys Berkshire did this quarter. As we mentioned earlier, they did pick up some more Bank of America shares, and now they're sitting on over 1 billion shares, which is absolutely crazy. Now, they also added 4 new positions to the portfolio, all in the healthcare sector. They added Merck & Co., AbbVie, Bristol Myers, one of my holdings, and Pfizer to the portfolio. And a common trend with these stocks is that they're all pretty much value plays. If you look at the forward PE for Merck, it's sitting at around 13. If you look at the forward PE for AbbVie and Bristol Myers, they're both at around 9. And Pfizer is also at a 13. And I gotta say, I like these value plays from Buffett, especially the Bristol Myers purchase for obvious reasons. Alright, so what moves do you think Buffett is going to do in the fourth quarter? It's almost impossible to predict this, but I'll share what I think he could possibly do. So I can see Buffett continuing to add to those healthcare stocks that he purchased. In Merck, AbbVie, Bristol Myers, they're all trading at a forward PE between 9 and 13, and I do think that those are stocks that Buffett really does like. I can also see him adding to his Kroger position as it's still trading at a nice multiple of 11, and now that he sold Costco, I think he might just add more shares to Kroger as long as it's trading at a good valuation, which I think it is right now. Now, as far for potential sells, I could easily see Buffett selling off more bank stocks in Q4. Banks have shot up over the past few months, and I think that since he's been slowly selling off shares, this might be a good time for him to sell off completely from JP Morgan Chase, continue to sell more shares of Wells Fargo, and maybe even start selling a few shares in US Bank Corp and Bank of New York Mellon. But yeah, those were my predictions of what I think Warren Buffett is going to do during Q4 of 2020. Honestly, nobody knows. These are just my guesses, but we'll see what happens. Now, I wanted to end this video with my favorite 4 stocks that Warren Buffett owns that I personally don't. And taking a look at his portfolio, I really like Bank of America and American Express. I can see why they're both top holdings in his portfolio. They're just 2 great, solid companies. Now, the next 2, I went with 2 positions that were lower in his portfolio with AbbVie and Kroger. Now, I do prefer Costco over Kroger, but at the current valuations, I do think that Kroger does make more sense. And as far as AbbVie, I do think that they do present a pretty good value right now. As we said, they're trading at a 9 forward PE. But yeah, those are my top 4 favorite stocks in Buffett's portfolio that I don't own myself. And that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching.